Do you remember how the world once seemed to wait for you? A quiet British street, early morning, doors left ajar, voices drifting gently from kitchen windows. Time didn't shove you forward, it lingered. Growing up then felt solid, almost weighty, as if life had texture you could grip. Days were shaped by routines, not reminders, and childhood unfolded at a human pace. Today, everything hurries, beeps, and demands attention. But back then, presence came naturally. Most people don't realize what we lost because it didn't vanish loudly. It simply slipped away, unnoticed, while we were busy growing up together. To understand why growing up felt so grounded, we have to step into the rhythms of post-war Britain. From the 1950s through the 1980s, daily life followed patterns that rarely changed. Shops closed early, streets grew quiet at predictable hours, and Sundays carried a different mood entirely. Work, school, and home existed close together, often within walking distance, binding families to their neighborhoods. These routines gave days clear edges. Mornings meant purpose, afternoons meant play, evenings meant gathering. Children learned time not from screens or schedules, but from cues around them. The sound of a door, the dimming light, the familiar call home. Stability wasn't exciting, but it was reassuring. Today, life tends to blur. Opening hours stretch endlessly, work spills into home, and days lose their distinct shape. Back then, repetition wasn't boring, it was grounding. It told you where you belonged and what came next. That steady framework quietly shaped childhood, making it feel safe, shared, and real. And it was within those predictable patterns that memories began to settle, ready to be carried forward into the wider world. This was the backdrop against which ordinary moments felt meaningful, lasting, and deeply rooted in everyday British life itself. When you stepped outside, the street welcomed you like an old friend. Pavements weren't just paths, they were stages where childhood unfolded naturally. Footsteps echoed, a name was called from somewhere down the road. A door opened, another closed. Without thinking, you learned distance, trust, and timing simply by being out there. Children moved freely between doorsteps, corners, and patches of pavement, discovering independence in small, ordinary ways. Adults were present, but not hovering. Someone always knew whose child you were, even if they didn't say a word. That quiet awareness created confidence. You belonged, and you were expected to manage yourself. Today, streets often feel like corridors. People pass through quickly. Back then, they were places to linger, observe, and grow. The street taught negotiation, patience, and courage without lessons or lectures. It shaped character through experience, not instruction. And as the sun dipped and familiar sounds signaled evening, those same streets gently guided you home, ready for the next lesson tomorrow. That sense of place lingered long after childhood, quietly shaping how many of us still see community. Nobody sat you down and explained how to behave. You learned by watching. Adults spoke to one another with a certain courtesy. Neighbors helped without fuss. Older children set the tone. From that, manners, resilience, and fairness seeped in quietly, almost unnoticed. Responsibility arrived early, but gently. You were trusted to deliver messages, keep an eye on things, return when expected. If you made a mistake, it was corrected calmly, often with a look rather than a lecture. The lesson stayed with you because it was lived, not announced. Today, we explain everything, label every feeling, spell out every rule. Back then, understanding came through example. This is something many people today never experienced and don't even realize. Values weren't taught as ideas. They were absorbed as habits. And those habits became part of who you were, shaping how you treated others long after childhood faded into memory. That quiet learning stayed with us, guiding adulthood in subtle, lasting ways. Small pleasures once carried a surprising weight. Pocket money treats were chosen carefully, turned over in your hand, savored slowly. A visit to the local library meant stiff covers, stamped cards, and the faint smell of paper and polish. Weekends had rituals, familiar radio voices in the morning, the rustle of a newspaper. Handwritten notes pinned where everyone could see them, because pleasures were limited, anticipation did half the work. You waited for things, and the waiting mattered. Seasons announced themselves through sounds and scents, not notifications. The first warm days, darker evenings, the quiet shift of routines all felt significant. Today, convenience has flattened much of that feeling. Everything is available, all the time, and little stands out. Back then, small moments were landmarks. They lingered because they were rare, shared, and earned. Those modest joys anchored memory, giving childhood a richness that had nothing to do with abundance and everything to do with attention. That sense of waiting. Looking back, it becomes clearer why life once felt so real. It was physical, rooted in place, shared face to face. You knew streets by feel, people by voice, time by light and sound. There were fewer distractions pulling you elsewhere, so attention stayed where you stood. Mistakes happened in full view, learned from quietly, then left behind. Memories formed slowly because the world around them rarely changed. The same faces, the same routes, the same routines gave experiences somewhere to settle. Today, memories scatter across screens and feeds, quickly replaced. Back then, they lodged in corners of the mind, tied to a doorway, a pavement, a familiar call. This isn't about wishing the past back. It's about understanding what made it solid. Presence, patience, and shared space turned ordinary days into something lasting, and that truth still matters now. Even today, those lessons echo through how we remember childhood. What changed most wasn't just technology but tempo. Life today is fuller, faster, often easier, and there is comfort in that. Yet something quieter slipped away when routines dissolved and presence became optional. The past mattered not because it was perfect, but because it was shared, local, and lived at a human pace. Perhaps what we miss isn't Old Britain itself, but the way we once paid attention. And maybe, even now, we can choose moments to slow notice and let life feel real again.